Alright, let us begin. No pressure. Vocalo.org, 89.5 FM. Jesse Menendez hanging out in studio with David Safran. What's going on, David?
How are you, Jesse?
Pretty good, man. It's a little warm in here. Other than that, I'm okay.
Well, the water is cold. So.
The water is cold, right. You make it seem like we're wading in like a child's pool here.
Well, we sort of are, actually.
So how are you, man? How is this crazy music scene going for you?
It's interesting. It's rewarding. I'm having a good time. The water is cold.
Good, good. And it's filled with sharks, I imagine.
Yeah.
At this point in your music career, do you have to deal with any of that, the shadiness that goes on in the industry, managers, that sort of thing?
Oh yeah, totally.
Really?
Yeah.
How so?
I don't want to name names here, but it's at any level. You're going to find people that are wonderful and willing to help you, and then people that are willing to exploit you happily.
Happily. Good people all around. You find them everywhere.
Yeah.
I was actually reading up on you, and I read an instance where you actually left a group of friends. You grabbed a shovel and decided that you were going to exhume the corpse of one Eugene Fields.
Oh, yeah, the 19th century poet.
Now, were you hoping to find the meaning behind Winkin', Blinkin', and Nod? What was going on
Actually,
there?
Little Boy Blue.
Really?
No, and I didn't find it. There was a moment, there used to be a bar called Lily's up on Lincoln, and there was a group of songwriters, and I think it was just some sort of a moment in which I decided to stop performing, and I threatened to leave them. And they said, well, where are you going to go? And I said, well, I'm going to go dig up the remains of this poet that no one reads anymore. So I didn't make it all the way to the church, by the way.
Good, because I would hate to see what would have happened if you would have made it.
I don't know, actually. That was 2006, so I was very different in 2006.
Really?
Not really.
What was that? How would you describe yourself? And I'm hoping you give me the answer that I read you've given before.
Oh, and that would be? What was my answer?
Something about a penis with a guitar.
Crazed penis.
Crazed penis with the guitar.
Yeah.
I was saying off air, I imagine that's difficult to play instruments that way.
Well, now it's more like the crazed penis with the dulcimer, so.
Really?
No.
Okay. And before we get into your songs, and there are some specific lines I want to ask you about, how would you describe your music?
That's a great question. I think at one point I described it as a slow-rolling, slightly dirty chuckle. Mostly I would say it's singer-songwriter with various folk instruments, and that's a cheap excuse, though. It's just dirty rock and roll.
It's dirty rock and roll.
Yeah.
It's definitely melancholy. I was listening, and I don't know if you've ever drawn this comparison, but there's like a certain sadness and honesty in your voice that I personally have not heard since one Johnny Cash. It's like, seriously, and when I was listening, it's like you've like already seen the future, and it doesn't look good. And when I guess the lines that really punch that home for me are lines like, I'm aging very fast these days. You're like 24 years old.
Actually, I'm 26.
You're 26 years old. How are you aging very fast these days?
Well,
of course, that line coming from Adult Things.
Yeah, a line coming from Adult Things. Well, if you want to spend some time with me in like the bathroom, watching me, shave in the mornings, you may be aware of the aging process.
You take your time.
I take my time.
Very good.
I'm not entirely sure how to respond to that.
That's all right. That's the good thing about recording these. We can cut that part out.
Yeah.
I guess what I'm asking is, some of these lines seem like they're beyond your years. Where do you draw inspiration when you're writing these kinds of songs?
From myself. I mean, it's not necessarily a narcissistic pursuit, the search for higher selfishness, but it's definitely whatever's occurring in my life, I'm going to use that as material for my songs. And whether it's aging very fast, or whether it's, looking for lines to sing, or whether it's digging up the remains of a 19th century poet, I'm going to, whatever it takes to get a good lyric. So I don't know. I mean, honesty is what I'm after.
And that definitely comes through in your music, man. I was telling you before we got started that I gave Adult Things like 10 listens.
Thank you.
No, seriously, it's really captivating. It's like haunting. It's like you can't. When it ends, you almost don't want it to end because you want to continue with this. It's like a story unfolding. You're like, wait a minute, it can't end there.
Yeah.
Tell me more.
Well, that's a great compliment. I appreciate that.
You used to play in a band called the Audreys.
I did, yeah.
And who would people recognize from that band?
Patrick Stump, who's now in Fall Out Boy. If that band exists.
I don't know. I've not heard too much from them.
Yeah, it was Patrick Stump and another guy named Ari and myself, and we were just young and naive and wanted to play obnoxious garage music, which I enjoyed for about a second, and I think Patrick enjoyed for maybe 2 seconds, and the band sort of disintegrated. But
What part were you in the band? What part did you play?
I played bass. I didn't write the songs. And that was very interesting because I realized that I don't really believe in democracy within music, and I wanted to lead something, and I wanted to write my own material. So the band, having a sort of subservient role, just as a bass player, I didn't enjoy that, and I wanted to be more adventurous with the music. And that's why the band ended. And then, of course, Pat Stubb decided to become
a millionaire.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Any what ifs ever creep into your head? Like, man, what if I was decided to stay with Patrick and we would have just created some sort of duo?
Not at all. Never. I just I'm happy for his success. I don't think I've ever really listened to his band. I'm not sure he listens to his band either. So.
I have some of it right here. Actually, we'll play it.
Well, let's do it.
No,
spend the next hour just playing
exactly.
Fall Out Boy.
We'll do a critique of like all. I don't even know how many albums they have, but anyway. So now you wanted to do solo music. You wanted to go off and it's funny because I've been reading what you've been saying about like the songwriting process, and it doesn't seem like you enjoy it.
No, I don't think anyone should.
Really? Why is that?
I think if it becomes enjoyable, then it's amateur hour. You know, anyone that really finds it cathartic and thrilling to sit down and write music or write anything for that matter, it's torturous. It's horrible. It's like, I don't know, wandering through the battlefield, counting the dead. I mean, it's difficult. And
now, do you imagine it's difficult and it's arduous because of the material you personally write, or in general?
I hope that it's hard in general. It should be difficult. It should be a challenge, and that's how you get better. But I'm not exactly writing, you know, topical or didactic material. This is not like Kumbaya or something. So, and whoever wrote Kumbaya probably had writer's block for about a year.
Right, and then they decided to sit in front of a campfire, and it all came to them.
Exactly.
Now, you've said that a good song with a clear-headed singer should exist somewhere between reporting and amateur psychoanalysis. Where does the reporting end and the psychoanalysis begin?
I have no idea.
Was that just one of those things like, this will be great, this will look good on paper, I'm going to say this?
No, I believe that. I believe that it should be reporting. You should report accurately about what's happening with you.
You're not unlike a comedian. Anything that happens around you makes it into some of your music.
Yeah, I think so. I'm always looking for the one-liner. I'm sort of like Henny Youngman over here. This is Borscht Belt material.
That's exactly right. I was reading on the song you wrote, Beyond the Kiss.
Nothing Beyond the Kiss.
Nothing Beyond the Kiss.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting story that comes from one of those lines that you were telling about an instance where you were in a bar. Can you share that with us?
I don't remember what I said. What was
you can make it up.
It was
about oh god, and I'm forgetting the line specifically, but it's the one where you mentioned loving a part of me.
Oh, it was something like I was in a bar with a woman and she said, you know, you're great, but you're sort of typical, or whatever it was. It was some cliche, and I just spent the next, you know, half an hour or hour trying to turn that into a lyric somehow, because it seemed so fundamental and so honest and so, you know, sincere, and something that I think every man experiences, that line, and woman. And then it became something like, in all I am too human, but lovable in parts, and that was...
because you are human, you're not perfect.
Yeah. So that's how the lyric began, you know.
I find it interesting because I try to imagine what that would have looked like. Here you are in this moment where things aren't going so well. She says something, and
I wasn't even paying attention.
You weren't,
right? I was just staring off into space, trying to come up with a rhyme.
That's exactly right. That's what I'm thinking, because the way it was written, I'm like, I bet you he spent the next 10, 20 minutes just like.
Well,
I've
been known to take things that people have said to me and then rearrange it and put it in a song, which makes for very interesting conversations with friends later. And that's, again, me just using whatever's around me to make something unique. And whether it's unique or whether it's cheap or nasty, I don't know. But it's my job to write this way.
Now, when you left the Audreys, you wanted to do solo. You wanted to do a solo album. But you didn't do it right away. You took somewhat of a hiatus.
I did, sort of. I mean, I played in coffee shops and in bars. And then I was introduced to a guy named Tim Sandusky back in 2005, 2006, and I started recording slowly the debut record. And we finished it sometime in 2006, I think, and there was interest from other people, and I was even approached by some small labels, which was thrilling, but at the same time, I just didn't think the material was good. I don't think any 21-year-old or 22-year-old should ever write a song. It's ridiculous.
And here you are 4 years later, 5 years later, now you're
I think 18 for cigarettes, 21 for alcohol, and like 74 to write a song. Really?
That's the thing, though. That's I guess that's the point I was trying to make.
Yeah.
When I did the Johnny Cash comparison, because it's like you're already 74. I'm listening to this. If I didn't see your picture, I didn't know how old you were. I'm like, this guy has lived a hard life.
Oh God, it was a hard life in the suburbs of Chicago. Yeah. Oof, man. Oof.
Which carpool lane to take?
Oh God.
What was I gonna eat for lunch?
As an English major, it's rough, man. It's rough studying Beowulf.
It is rough studying Beowulf.
Actually,
I had to do it.
It is rough.
Especially
you have to translate
seeing
Beowulf.
like the movie versions of it later. That's especially painful.
Yeah, they keep coming up with a new movie every like 5 years.
Right.
Thinking that there's going to be a good box office for Beowulf.
Although the story is pretty good.
It's fantastic.
It is.
That's why it survived.
English major.
I am an English major.
I
admit that. Yeah.
You shouldn't shy away from it.
Yeah.
Some people actually would stand behind it firmly. Does that work its way into your songwriting?
Everything.
Does it inhibit your writing?
Probably.
Huh.
I mean, I always wanted to be a writer. That was my goal. It was never... I mean, I came to music almost by accident because it was something of a hobby and I enjoyed it. And the last thing... I wanted to be a novelist, and the last thing that the publishing industry needs right now is some narcissistic schmuck rewriting Herzog. But I wanted to be that narcissistic schmuck rewriting Herzog, but on record. But yeah, I'm an English major, and writing to me is the most important part of the process. And I'd rather be known as someone who writes than someone who performs music.
It comes across in your lyrics and in your songs that these lines were meticulously put together. They don't seem like throwaway lines.
Yeah.
Like, yes, this rhymes with love, I'm going to throw in dove.
Or of.
Or of, right. There we go. We've written
shove.
one song, or shove, or of then. But I asked you, does it inhibit your writing process? And you said kind of. Is it because you really do want to make sure that this is somewhat like a novel, like a poem?
Yeah. Well, not a poem. And I think it's dangerous territory to assume that lyrics are poetry. I think a lot of singer-songwriters fall into this horrible trap that they assume they have to write poetic because it kind of looks, or in a poetic way rather, because it looks like poetry when you write it out, but it's not, in fact. But I think, yeah, being a musician and wanting to be a writer, there's no throwaway lines for me then. And, the more I try and write in this way, I sort of, I don't know, I'm not making any sense. We can all edit all this out.
No, I'm leaving that one in.
Yeah.
No. How much of your real life finds its way into your music? I know we kind of touched on that, but on a whole, are you walking through the streets of Chicago picking things up, or is it sort of like when you are in a special place, then you let it all you reflect on what's been going on in your life and write? Or can it come from a barista at Starbucks burning your hand?
Yeah.
That is a symbol for eternal love.
Yeah, right. I don't know. I think it comes from everything. There's never a moment in which I say, all right, I'm going to write a great song now. It just sort of slowly you dig, and whatever's happening around you, you write about it. And the point is to write every day. Try to write a song every day. Try to write a couplet. Try to write, I don't know, a bad email to someone that doesn't like you. And hopefully something will happen. As long as there's some sort of discipline, music will come.
And how do you know when that's happened?
I don't.
You don't? Literally, you don't?
No, I have no idea. It's just...
Your producer walks into the room and says, all right, David, stop writing, you've done it.
Pretty much. Or, I get a phone call from someone saying, you've been working on this piece of junk for a year and a half. Maybe you should release it finally.
Is that the narcissist in you?
Narcissist is... I know I used that word before. And no, I think that's someone with severe OCD, when it comes to writing, or fearful of releasing bad material.
There's nothing beyond the kiss.
Kisses.
Or the kisses, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
There are more than one kiss.
Sometimes.
There's nothing beyond the kisses.
Maybe for you.
Hopefully. Right. Now I'm married.
You're married, I know.
The kiss
for me, I just get one. So.
That's right. There's nothing beyond the kisses. What is that about?
What is the song about, or what is that line about?
The line, yeah. The title.
Well, what do you think it's about?
It sounds sad. It doesn't sound very promising. It's like everything is on the surface.
Yeah.
There's nothing more, and
nothing below the belt.
Right.
Yeah.
And then there's a line like, nothing like sex to ruin a sense of intimacy.
Instrumental things, yeah. I guess if you read it that way, it's pretty negative. I don't know if I have a negative view on this culture and the hookup culture and people my age. But I'm not running around